Call, please.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco. Here. Dingfelder. Cedro. Vieira. Vieira. Miranda.
No, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't hear Councilman Vieira.
Try him again.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, sir.
Yes. Vieira
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum present.
Mr. Dingfelder will be a few minutes late. Received that call, and also Mr. Citro provided a memo that he would not be here this evening. And of course, Mr. Vieira is virtual. All right, Mr. Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Tonight's quasi-judicial and other land use-related matters are being conducted with a live in-person quorum of City Council present here in City Council chambers. However, in light of the continuing COVID-19 government-issued health standards or guidance now in effect, members of the public shall have the ability to participate virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as Communications Media Technology, or CMT. The public is able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on cable TV, Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the internet at Tampa.
Mr. Shelby?
Yes. Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Manassi.
I'm sorry, we can't, now we can hear you. We weren't able to hear you.
You weren't able to hear me.
No, sir.
Okay, because I thought, were you able to hear me through the PA system or not?
Yeah, we can hear you in here, but I don't know. He said he
Okay,
can't.
well, thank you very
I
much.
can hear you now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manassi. I appreciate that. Well, let me just say that this is being conducted through Communications Media Technology with a physical quorum present, and the public is able to view on cable TV, Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the internet at tampa.gov/live stream. And a reminder that in order to participate via Communications Media Technology remotely, you must have access to a communications media device such as a tablet or a computer equipped with a camera and microphone that will enable you to be seen with video and heard on audio by the City Council and all other participants. For those specific two-way virtual meeting formats, such as what you have tonight on GoToMeeting, cell phones and smartphones are not compatible, as they will not allow you to share your camera when connected. Now, for more information on how to participate in public hearings via CMT, you can go to the City Council's webpage at tampa.gov/citycouncil, one word, and on that page you'll find a link to tampa.gov/quasi, QUASI. Now, those willing to and wanting to participate through the hybrid method, did require pre-registration, and the instructions again are on the City Council's webpage. Now, applicants and other interested members of the public who wish to appear in person using CMT or do not have access to a communications media device can come to Old City Hall here on the second floor, where we have that technology set up for your use. And please note that use of masks inside the building is required and social distancing is encouraged. Now, you also have had the opportunity to send in comments via email, via mail, and also on the web, on the webinar page. And again, those instructions are available in the notice that's on the City Council's webpage and the instructions. Now, also, a reminder to those people who are using GoToMeeting, please do note that there is a chat box, but that chat box is not to be used to communicate with City Council members during the meeting. It's only to be used for technical issues. Also, Council, just a reminder that the public is supposed to be able, in order to have these items placed into the record, must be able to send it 24 hours in advance. And then, with that being the case, a reminder to the council members that during this meeting, you should not be opening emails that are being sent in by the public after the deadline. Now, all written comments received timely have been distributed to the City Council and will also be included in the permanent record of the meeting. And at this time, Council, just a reminder with regard to tonight's quasi-judicial hearings, I will ask you at the time we begin with quasi-judicial matters about ex parte communications. But until that point, just please be advised that I will ask you to disclose any ex parte communications relative to tonight's hearings that have not previously been disclosed, that have not come in through email, but let's say came in through another device such as a text or verbally. That being said, Mr. Chairman, I would ask council to waive its rules to approve these rules as set forth in the notice.
Move to waive.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco has moved. Mr. Miranda seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion granted.
And one more word, Mr. Chairman, just so council is aware. You have items tonight that are set for 6 o'clock. I believe one item, I believe it's item number 12 at 6 o'clock. And you also have a staff report, unfinished business, which is just, I believe, moving a resolution, if the clerk has that resolution.
Yes, I do.
Okay, we could either take that up now or take that up at the end of the meeting, but either way, that's number 13.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Manasseh?
Good evening, council. How are you tonight?
All right, we got any house cleaning to do, sir?
Yes, sir. One item, please. Ryan Manassi for the record. Item number 11, which is file number REZ 20-66. It's before you. This is a Fludra hearing case that was set by motion. The applicant has requested a continuance, and that was a letter that we saw, I think, earlier this afternoon. Ann Pollock, the representative, is requesting a March 24th, 2022 public hearing at 5:01 p.m. I have checked my calendar, and we do have available space, and staff does support this continuance request. I am available for any questions that you have.
All right, we open the public hearings.
So move it, Chairman.
All right, Mr. Miranda moved it. Mr. Alcock seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Move to continue item number 11.
So move it, Chairman. Item number 11 to February 24th, the year 2022 at, I don't know, 5:01 or 6.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
It was already, yeah, I guess 5:01, yeah.
People downstairs have to.
5:01.
5:01. And, Mr. Chairman, I believe Ms. Pollock is online if she wishes to say something, the applicant's representative.
All right. Ms. Pollock?
Good evening, council members. I'm here for any questions. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Ms. Pollock? Anyone on the second floor to talk on this item?
Oh, I see Ms. Wells is looking to be recognized.
Ms. Wells?
Just a quick question for the record. I don't know if I misunderstood Councilman Miranda. Did he say February 24th or March 24th? Because the
February
request is
24th.
to March.
March, I'm sorry.
Oh, this is March?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. There was an updated request for continuance filed with council this afternoon.
The March, I'll change it then.
If I can.
Thank you.
Is March 24th the correct date for the, is that a Thursday?
Yes,
Yes, it is.
March 24th, please.
Mr.
Brian
Miranda is
Manassi, that's
correct. It does say February on our documents here, so. Okay.
I got it.
Yes, Council Chair, the original request was for February, but this afternoon, we received an additional request from Ms. Pollock. And I did recheck the calendar to ensure that 3/24 is available, and it is.
All right. Anyone on the second floor to speak on this item?
Good evening, council members. Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen. Anyone virtual to speak on this item, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we had two registered speakers, Jean Strohmeyer and Jordan Miller.
All right.
And
And
I
they're
don't
not
know.
logged on.
They're not logged on? Okay, they're not logged on.
Okay.
All right, being that, Mr. Miranda, you've moved this item?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move the item number 11, file number RZ 20-66, be moved to March 24th, the year 2022, as at 5:01.
A motion to continue, Mr. Miranda, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Mescal, you second it, sir? Okay, you want a roll call on that, Mr. Shelby, or no?
Please.
All right, roll call, please.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro and Dingfelder being absent.
All right, moving right along.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Manassi, house cleaning?
No, sir, that'll take care of it. Thank you, sir.
All right, let's open up item number 1.
Jennifer Malone, item number 1. I will go ahead and request to share my screen, please. Okay, so this is Tampa Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment 21-11. This was initiated by council. It's the floor area ratio for residential in the community mixed use 35, community commercial 35, and urban mixed use 60 future land use categories. You all may recall that City Council directed staff to review the use of floor area ratio in determining maximum residential potential for single-use structures. This was back in April of 2021. We held 2 virtual stakeholder meetings to seek public input, and all of that public input should still be in your packet. This was transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity on September 30th, 2021. That's the process for text amendments. They have to be reviewed by the state. DEO had no comment. So it is back to you today for adoption. I'll just give a quick overview of this amendment, but essentially this would remove the allowance for single-use residential structures to utilize the floor area ratio to determine maximum development potential in the South and New Tampa planning districts. I have a map of all of the planning districts on the left-hand side of the screen. The South Tampa is on the south, it's outlined in the blue. It's where MacDill Air Force Base. It's generally bounded by Kennedy Boulevard. And then New Tampa is in the pink at the far northern portion of the city. This amendment is also going to remove the statement, whichever calculation is more beneficial to the development, and it would add determines a sites to clarify when FAR is used to determine maximum residential density. It also replaces the word consistent, which is not defined in either the comp plan or the land development code, which is with compatible, which is defined in the comprehensive plan. This will continue to promote vertical mixed use development. This might result in a potential reduction in overall residential unit count per development, and this would also provide greater protections for existing single family detached neighborhoods. Staff and the Planning Commission also found it consistent with the plan. Policies related to preserving the neighborhood character and design sensitivity. This is also consistent with the compact city form strategies, which seek to incentivize increased residential development near transit and employment opportunities. There's limited transit opportunities in South and New Tampa. So this amendment would incentivize more of that residential development in our other planning districts. So with that, the Planning Commission recommends that this is found consistent and adopted to the plan. And I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? All right. I see that we have public comment on this, Madam Clerk.
Yes, we do.
All right, anybody on the second floor speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
All right, we have, I see 4 registered folks.
Yes.
All right, let's get them all on. She's still working on it, Ms. Miranda. They're all there?
Sorry, this many times.
All right, I see Ms. Susan Swift there.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you. And I want to share my PowerPoint. Should I just pop that up there?
So Jean Strohmeyer, she's not logged on, but Carol Ann Bennett, if you can hear me, please turn on your camera.
Can you hear me? And can you see my screen?
We can see your screen. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members and Mr. Chairman. My name is Susan Swift. I'm the planning manager for the Tampa office of Colliers Engineering and Design. And tonight I'm representing Save Beach Park LLC and the Beach Park Homeowners Association. We did submit a letter, and I have a few slides that I wanted to show our reasoning for our recommendation. We support the Save Beach Park and the Homeowners Association supports, okay, now I'm going to my screen. Wait. Why can't I show my screen here? One second.
Ms. Swift, we can see your screen.
You can? Okay. Now I just need to go back because I can't find the. Sorry. 1 second. There we go. Okay. Okay. So we do support the concept. We would actually are very supportive of eliminating the FAR option to calculate the density in these 3 categories. But we actually request that you add one more category in order to protect Beach Park. And this is the current draft. And this, we would request respectfully that you just add 3 little words, and that would be to add the regional mixed use 100 to this same ordinance. I have a draft here of the ordinance as we would suggest. This is the planning area, as Ms. Malone had shown. This is part of the planning area, and as you can see, the purple is the RMU 100, and the yellow is the residential 6, and all along here is the most, the biggest jump in the entire city. There's no other single family land use category next to such a dense area. RMU 100 is the highest density allowable in the city. And this is, our residential 6 is, for all intents and purposes, the lowest density, except for 3 areas, 3 areas up in New Tampa that are not next to 100 units per acre. So it's a huge jump. And what we propose is to just add the RMU 100 so Beach Park has the same protections. There's an extreme disparity in density. It's the only area in the city with such a density jump where there's 6 units an acre next to 100 units per acre. And the option actually increased beyond the 100 units per acre, which was the original intent of these categories. So what Beach Park is experiencing is negative impacts, not only because the maximum allowable density is being perceived by developers as permitted density, despite the compatibility and consistency questions. Then they're going and using a planned development rezoning to circumvent some of the most basic setback and height requirements.
Finish up your statement, Ms. Swift. I gave you an extra minute already, so finish up your statement. We're gonna move on.
And this is my last slide. And so we really support the adoption of the ordinance with the addition of our amendment to add the RMU 100 so that they cannot use this option here in this neighborhood as well.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Carol Ann Bennett.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm in a very, very rural area in Georgia, so I hope my connection lasts. My name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of South Tampa. South Tampa's been victimized by stupid growth. The SOG neighborhood leaders have been physically coming to you for over 2 years, asking for a solution to the stupid growth. This amendment is a very small step with small consequences. Think of all the multifamily projects that we have appeared before you to discuss. How many of those complexes do you think this new language would have applied to? I'll answer that question. None, zero, zilch, nada. So any claims that this will smother growth are absurd. This is a small change that will have a small impact, which is why I am not thrilled with this small change, but that's only because it does not do enough. So I strongly support this amendment because it is appropriate and it does help and it is a step in the right direction. My biggest fear about this amendment is that city officials will sit back and say, problem solved. This does not solve the challenge of requiring smart growth in our city. It does not solve the problem of stupid growth in our city, but it is good language, and I ask you to vote yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Who else we have next? Gene Stollmeyer?
Stephanie Pointer.
Stephanie Pointer, okay.
You hear me?
We can hear you.
My camera is acting really stupid. I don't like it. This is just not my day. Anyway, good evening, gentlemen. I have to agree with Ms. Swift. I think she had some very valid points. We're here again asking for a little tiny movement forward. The elimination of the FAR in South Tampa is something that would not have impacted our previously approved projects. None of them were even at 1.0 of the maximum density allowed. Of course, that would be the right thing to do since we are in the CHHA area and we weren't supposed to have much in the way of growth according to the comprehensive plan. FAR is important in other parts of the city. It is needed. The availability of bonus density, in particular, when it applies to affordable housing, is most important. Tampa continues to operate with a future land use plan that is 40 plus years old, that is pushing all these uber dense projects in order to meet the housing needs. Instead of looking at other cities and what they're doing, it doesn't mean plywood palaces that no one likes. Most of you came to the American Dream Fest a few weeks ago. Progressive and positive growth were presented. It is time to really sit down and look at the alternatives to these monster apartments, like the one coming in across the street from me. Every single bit of it is sticked except the elevator shaft. How will our firemen deal with these? I mean, seriously, they are building 771 units within a half a mile of the Station 19. That's also the Marine unit. And there's only 6 firemen there. One of these buildings, they are going to have a lot of backup just to keep the fire under control if something were to happen. We have to look at the missing middle housing. We have to look at how to keep families together. We have to look at accessory dwellings, granny flats, and alternatives to these 300 to 500 apartment units, towering over 1-story bungalows. It is time to stop the FAR in South Tampa. It is time to make planning a priority for our city. When you do, City Council's agenda will change because it won't be inundated with people asking for exceptions because they wouldn't be necessary. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Pointer. Anyone else?
Besides that, we had Jean Strohmeyer. Like I mentioned, she has not logged on.
All right. Mr. Carlson, you recognize, sir.
Ms. Johnson-Velez, is it okay to ask a question now?
Certainly.
The Representative Beach Park asked us to add that amendment to it. This is first reading, so we can't add it without going to another first reading, right? And if that's true, should we make a separate motion to come back and edit it at a future date, or what would you recommend?
Yes, certainly. Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. So a couple of things. This amendment has been reviewed and recommended to be consistent by the Planning Commission And it's also been reviewed by the Department of Economic Opportunity, which, as Ms. Malone mentioned earlier, had no comment. And so, and I will note as well that we have already been granted an extension to the adoption date. The adoption date is March 29th of 2022, which is about 60 days from now. And so if you were to add this evening or the RMU 100 as requested to what's before you this evening, it would have to go back through all that process again. And we might not be able to meet this adoption deadline of March 20. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, Jennifer Malone. I'm so sorry, Susan, but I think that you and I, because there's a lot of plan amendments flying around, had a minor miscommunication. We had an extension for a different plan amendment on the agenda tonight, 2101.
Oh, okay. So we're within the.
We would need to ask for an extension though, if we have not asked for one yet, but we would need to ask for one from DEO if council chooses to make
maybe to
an amendment
simplify.
to this item.
So I guess based on all of that, the recommendation that I believe Jennifer and I had discussed was for you to proceed with this particular amendment as it's presented to you, and then allow us to come back at a later date for a proposal to add the RMU 100 in addition to those categories that are also mentioned in what's before you this evening.
Okay, so we could pass this and make a separate motion right afterwards for it to add. Okay.
Absolutely.
I just have one question. I mean, you have these people been coming here for a while, so I'm just curious. Had they mentioned to staff and to Ms. Malone about the 100?
Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission. That was the first I had heard about it. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues had heard, but this was new to me as of yesterday.
Okay. All right.
And Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you're recognized, sir.
Yes, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Just a reminder also, with regard to that motion, Mr. Carlson, that would be appropriate if it's adopted after second reading. Tonight's the first reading consideration. So that motion would be in order after this is adopted.
We can't make it tonight.
It wouldn't be appropriate to make it tonight.
I'm happy to make this motion.
All right, so I guess my question was answered. Any other questions for staff or Ms. Malone? All right, Mr. Carlson?
Like to.
Move to close, I'm sorry. Move to close.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco? Second by Ms. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Carlson?
I'd like to move file number TACPA 2111, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan future land use element, establishing a geographic area of the city within which the FAR option can be used for single-use multifamily projects within the Community Mixed Use 35, CMU 35, Community Commercial 35, CC 35, and Urban Mixed Use 60, UMU 60 categories, and upon adoption of this amendment prohibiting the use of the FAR option for single-use multifamily residential projects within the South Tampa or New Tampa planning districts, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing effective date.
So, Mr. Maniscalco, roll call.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira,
Yes.
Citro, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Mr. Carlson, recognized.
Two things. One is to the residents of Beach Park. If you please come back to us at second reading, I'm happy to make the motion to move the RMU 100 forward for discussion and review as an edit to this. Second, there are some folks in the small minority in the community who complain about us and say development community needs predictability. Yes, I know we talk to developers constantly in the community. What this is doing is protecting neighborhoods also, because we know that the future of our economy is not just bricks and mortar, it's people. And unless we build environments that where people can succeed and thrive, we're not going to have people to rent and buy space. And so we're trying to make sure that the customers of the real estate projects are happy and that they want to live here. We don't want to be like other communities that people are leaving from. We want to make sure we have welcoming, safe, quality, high quality of life communities, so our residents will stay, their kids and grandkids will stay, and so that people will want to move here and bring their companies. So I hope that as we're making these changes to make us a more livable community, that it'll make us an even better place for predictable investment in real estate as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, item number 2.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission. May I have permission to share my screen? Okay, item number 2 is Plan Amendment 21-19 on 720 West Columbus Drive. This is located in the Central Tampa Planning District in the Ridgewood Park neighborhood. It is just west of the corner of West Columbus Drive and North Boulevard. I'll note that those are 2 arterial roadways. To the south of the subject site are some single-family detached homes. To the north along West Columbus Drive is some commercial uses. There's a gas station directly to the north of the site. It is a privately initiated amendment before you today, small scale at about 0.36 acres, and the request is from residential 10 to residential 20. Take a quick tour of the site. This is the subject site facing east. Here's a view of West Columbus Drive facing east. The subject site's on the right-hand side of the screen. I have another view of the subject site facing northeast towards Columbus Drive. There's an alley that's on the south of the subject site. And these are the single-family detached homes on West Amelia that are just to the south of the subject site. The request, this is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is outlined in the black color. The subject site is residential 10, which is, you see that to the south of the site. The green to the northwest is recreational open space. That's Phillips Park. That was actually amended as part of the Parks project. To the north and east is community mixed use 35. That's the pink color that allows for commercial uses along our corridors. There's a little bit of residential 20 to the south along North Boulevard, more residential 20 to the north on the northeastern side of North Boulevard, and then to the south is residential 35. And this is the proposal before you today, requesting that residential 20 designation. This would increase the impacts from about 3 dwelling units to 7 dwelling units. It would increase the amount of non-residential that can be considered on the site from approximately 5,000 to 7,000 square feet. The residential 20 still has locational criteria for any non-residential uses. The criteria expands under the proposed residential 20, so the subject site would actually meet that criteria. The Planning Commission found this consistent with the comprehensive plan. They found that it's in an ideal location for increased density, given that it is 200 feet west of an intersection of 2 arterial roadways. There's West Columbus Drive is a designated transit emphasis corridor. There's a transit stop about 200 feet to the west of the site, and this is only a 12-minute walk away from the Armature Works development and those amenities. The comprehensive plan recognizes that Tampa's population will continue to grow and that housing opportunities should be created to meet the needs of the present and future populations, ideally utilizing the vacant, infill, or underutilized land. So having this low category, it's vacant along a major arterial roadway could be considered underutilized by the comprehensive plan. It also seeks to target areas with existing infrastructure that are served by employment and transit for these increases in density. And lastly, the comprehensive plan seeks to provide those sensitive transitions. The proposed R20 would allow a logical transition in density from West Columbus Drive to the single-family detached neighborhood to the south. And I would also just lastly point out that it currently interfaces and is adjacent to future land use categories that are much greater than what it currently has and what it is asking for. This community mixed use 35 directly to the east. So with that, the Planning Commission recommends that this be found consistent. I'm available for any questions, and I will turn it over to council or the applicant.
Any question for Ms. Malone? All right, we have the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman
Evening.
and council members. My name is John LaRocca, Murphy LaRocca Consulting Group. I'm representing the owner applicant, Mid-Century Holdings. Jennifer and the Planning Commission staff has made a very thorough and good recommendation. For brevity, I'm not going to repeat many of the things she said. That would have been my presentation. I understand your record you have attached to the file both the staff recommendation and drawings in detail, along with the motion and resolution by the Planning Commission. As indicated by Jennifer, the Planning Commission found this request consistent. From my perspective as the applicant's representative and as a longtime planner in the community, this property would be an ideal candidate for this type of increase. And the reason for it is, as Jennifer indicated on the maps, the property directly to the north of this property, what would be the western boundary of this property on the south side of Columbus, and the western boundary of the property to the north. Everything to the north, which would be, if you will, parallel and matching the western boundary of this property, is Community Mixed Use 35 that extends eastward through North Boulevard and 2 blocks to the east. And then everything directly east of this property, to Boulevard and 2 blocks east of Boulevard, is Community Mixed Use 35. And there's varying densities off of the node of the intersection of North Boulevard and Columbus. As Jennifer indicated, this property is located on in the vicinity within 200 feet of 2 arterial streets. The applicant's desire is to allow the potential for and while we cannot make this commitment at this level of review, to give greater opportunity to do mixed use development in that node, either somewhat on its own if possible. The devil will be in the details as we propose a zoning at some point in the future, or potentially mixed with other property at that node. The mapping and the mapping consistency of that area in terms of land use intensities and transitions makes a lot of sense. The property directly to the west is an alley. It's a logical transition or cutting point to how that node works. Obviously, I recommend that you consider support of this decision and recommendation made by the Planning Commission to support the amendment. I'll also note for the record, because I don't know who else is speaking tonight, but I'll note for the record that we had reached out, and the neighborhood associations most interested in this particular request did comment at the Planning Commission stage. And I don't, again, not to put words in anybody's mouth, the land use plan amendment request, I didn't hear, I don't think anyone heard that there was objections to that. Concerns were rated in a very articulate and very passionate position that the community is concerned with, and I know that community very well, is that any decisions that are made in the future with regard to any zoning proposals that would have to be through a planned development consistent with what the historical zoning, at least on the current zoning on the property is, and what might occur to accomplish some of the things from a mixed-use standpoint, would certainly, from my experience, would have to be through a planned development and those proposal, and those decisions will be brought to the neighborhood and certainly this city council to make those decisions. With that, I'll accept and find the recommendations that are in your file from the Planning Commission consistent with anything that I could present to you this evening, so I won't repeat them. I respectfully request approval, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right. Anybody to speak on this item on the second floor?
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone ready to speak on this item?
Yes, we have Jean Strohmeyer, but she's not logged on.
She's not logged on? Okay. All right, Mr. Scalpers, move to close.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Vieira still on, you still
Yes,
have
sir.
with us? Could you take number 2, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance amending the 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element, future land use map for the property located at 720 West Columbus Drive, from residential 10 R10 to residential 20 R20, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
and Gould.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Item number 3.
Jennifer Malone, if I can have permission to share my screen, I'll be running the PowerPoint for Mark Hudson, who'll be presenting verbally. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mark Hudson, Planning Commission staff. I'm here to present to you this evening consideration of adoption, your new property rights element. We last spoke of this in front of you on September 30th. You directed us to transmit this to the Department of Economic Opportunity for their review. We have received that back from them. They had no objections or comments. So I will very briefly go through this to refresh your memory from my presentation on September 30th. Jennifer, could I have the next slide? If you recall, we developed a property rights element for the city of Tampa, and actually all 4 jurisdictions in Hillsborough County. And this was done to be in compliance with House Bill 59, which became effective last year on July 1st. Basically, it ensures that property rights are considered in our local decision-making processes in Tampa. And our review, both by your staff and our staff, feels that the impacts of this are limited. However, we are required to complete this process. Otherwise, the state may impose delays on processing other private or public plan amendments that were initiated after July 1st. It is my understanding at this point that it has not impacted the timeline of any other plan amendments to date. Next slide, please. The element is rather short. It has a single goal, objective, and policy. This is the goal and the objective to acknowledge private property rights, to ensure their consideration in the local decision-making processes of the city of Tampa. And the objective that goes with that is to respect private property rights in the city of Tampa. If I could have the next slide. And I will not read this, but this language comes verbatim out of the legislation and was our conversations with the Department of Economic Opportunity, that this is the language based on the legislation that needs to become part of your comprehensive plan. Next slide. We did review this new element by your Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. We feel it is consistent. In particular, we looked at the goals of the future land use element and felt that this will not impede the city from successfully achieving those goals. We did review this for compliance with the legislation that was signed by Governor DeSantis in June. And we feel it also complies with that and meets that requirement, and DEO's review seems to verify that. Early in the process, not since we transmitted it in September, but early in the process, we did receive comments in coordination with your staff, and they did provide some minor revisions, which we were able to accommodate. Next slide. The Planning Commission reviewed this on August 24th and found it consistent with your comprehensive plan. I've already mentioned that you directed us to send this to DEO on September 30th and that they have had no objections or comments. And therefore, we're here tonight to consider its adoption. Next slide. So with that, we would recommend you adopt the ordinance creating a new property rights element for the City of Tampa's comprehensive plan in compliance with its legislative requirements and intent of House Bill 59. And I stand for any questions.
Any questions for the gentleman? All right. We have anybody on the second floor to speak on this side?
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
All right. Anyone ready to speak on this item?
Yes, we had Jean Strohmeyer, and she's still not logged on.
Still not logged on. Mr. Maniscalco, move to close.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element to comply with House Bill 59, which became effective July 1st, 2021, that requires each local government to adopt a property rights element into its comprehensive plan, which property rights element is intended to acknowledge and respect private property rights and ensure they are considered in the local decision-making process, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Viera,
Oh, yes.
Cedro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro and Dingfelder being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
All right.
Thank you.
Item number 4.
Good evening, Council. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. It is my understanding the applicant is requesting a continuance to align plan amendment with the companion rezoning. Can I turn this over to the applicant to address the continuance?
Yes, you may. We have the applicant registered or no applicant registered? Second floor? All right, we have the applicant on the second floor.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, Michael Brooks for the record, 400 North Tampa Street, Suite 1910. We had anticipated possibly requesting a continuance of this to align with a planned development on February 10th for the same piece of property. We understand that agenda was full, and so we're prepared to go forward today if the Planning Commission is prepared.
Planning Commission prepared?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to present.
All right, we'll go forward.
Sorry about that, Danny.
No problem. Danny Collins. There we go. This is Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. This is Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2122 for the property located at 4510 South Manhattan Avenue. The subject site is located in the South Tampa Planning District. It's within the Fair Oaks Manhattan neighborhood. Portions of the subject site are within the Cosi Hazard area, and it is located here on our locational map. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site is just generally located on the southeast corner of South Manhattan and West Fair Oaks Avenue. There is a detached single-family neighborhood directly to the north of the subject site on West Fair Oaks Avenue. There are several churches located along the west portion of South Manhattan Avenue, and also a school that's located generally to the southeast of the subject site. Here is an image looking east at the subject site from South Manhattan Avenue. This is an image looking north at the subject site, the south side of the property. This is looking north on South Manhattan Avenue. The subject site is on our right. This is looking south on South Manhattan Avenue. The subject site would be on our left. This is an example of some of the detached single-family residential uses that are located north of the subject site on West Fair Oaks Avenue. And this is looking southwest of the subject site towards the northeastern portion of the site. Just a quick background, this is a privately initiated amendment. It's small scale in size. The subject site's approximately 2.2 acres. The request is to change the future land use from the public semi-public designation to the community mixed use 35 and the residential 10 designations. Here is the adopted future land use map. You'll see the subject sites currently recognized under the public semi-public designation. Directly to the north of the subject sites is CMU 35. Then towards the eastern portion, north of the subject site, shown in the Spanish color, is our parcels recognized under the residential 10 designation. Subject sites recognized or surrounded by public, semi-public designations to the east and south. Directly to the west of the subject site on South Manhattan Avenue, our parcels recognized under the CMU 35 designation. This green line here represents the Cosi Hazard area. Here is the proposed future land use map. The applicant is proposing to change approximately 1.2 acres to the CMU 35 along the western portion of the site, and then approximately 1 acre on the eastern portion of the site to the residential 10 designation. Currently under the public, semi-public designation, the maximum density and intensity cannot be defined because it's determined by the surrounding development pattern. As proposed under the CMU 35 and residential 10 designations, the subject site can be considered for 52 dwelling units, or just under 120,000 square feet of residential or non-residential uses within that CMU 35 portions of the site. This amendment would allow for residential, commercial, or mixed uses on the CMU 35 designated portions of the site that cannot be considered under the public, semi-public designation. Planning Commission staff and the Planning Commission reviewed the application, found it consistent with several policies in the comprehensive plan. The request is consistent with the livable city section of the plan, which seeks to provide diverse housing opportunities that are serviced by transit in the South Tampa Planning District while maintaining the character of established neighborhoods. The request is consistent with the city design and mixed-use policies of the plan by promoting a mixed-use development pattern and a range of uses in proximity to each other. The request is also remaining sensitive to the adjacent single-family detached neighborhood to the north by recognizing the eastern portion of the site under the residential 10 designation. This will provide a transition in density from the potential commercial or multifamily uses that can be considered on the CMU portion of the site. Finally, the comprehensive plan seeks to direct future populations away from the coastal hazard area. And portions of the site are within that coastal hazard area. Residential uses can currently be considered on the site under the public, semi-public designation. Since the public, semi-public designation does not have a cap on density or intensity, the Planning Commission cannot determine if the request would result in a net increase of density. The CMU 35 does allow for residential uses. However, it is the least intensive future land use designation that is consistent with the commercial general zoning districts that currently exist on the subject site. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. We'll now look for any questions.
Mr. Carlson, you're recognized.
Could you tell us the history of the parcel, why it's public, semi-public?
I can, that might be a question for the applicant. Currently, it's under private ownership.
And the adjacent public, semi-public?
I also believe the parcels to the south are under private ownership, and then also to the southeast are under private ownership. I believe those. I know the southeast are. It's now Montessori School to the southeast.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Collins? All right, we'll go to the applicant.
Again, Michael Brooks for the record. Here on behalf of the applicant, our client is Lennar Homes. We're seeking this amendment from the public designation. Mr. Carlson, I don't represent the trustees of the Methodist Church directly, so I can't speak to the history of this property. But it is my understanding that they no longer have any use for it and made it available on the market. The properties to the south, the other institutional uses, there is an elder housing facility, mixed 4 and 5 stories, roughly 80 some units. There are some church buildings there, but that is a different affiliation.
Could I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, sir.
I apologize. Mr. Shelby, I didn't realize that this is the Methodist Church property. I'm a member of the Methodist Church, but also my firm works with the regional district of the Methodist Church. And because I didn't realize that, I didn't research whether this was a conflict or not. But maybe the applicant knows. Unfortunately, we only have 4 people here.
Well, you actually, the truth of the matter is you have a physical quorum. If you abstain, you're registered for being abstaining. Perhaps you can remain.
Can I
Keep
just
the
ask the
physical
applicant,
quorum.
is it this is the property's owned by the Methodist Church now in the Methodist Church District? Do you know who the,
Bear with me, Mr. Carlson, for one moment. A copy of the deed
sorry,
is-
when we review these documents, it usually says the applicant and not the, the
Yeah.
detail of it. I didn't see Methodist Church anywhere. If I missed it, I apologize, but.
So the property is actually owned and controlled by the Board of Trustees of the Florida Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church, Inc.
I better recuse myself then. I apologize, everybody.
Ms. Shelby, will we still be able to proceed with Mr. Carlson abstaining and not having a physical quorum?
Yes, he could remain in the room, retain the physical quorum, and then certainly you don't participate, but your vote will be recorded as abstaining as long as Mr. Vieira is here and remotely will be able to vote. I believe that would be the correct thing to do. Just a reminder, council, that, and this is to the applicant's representative, sir, if at a quasi-judicial public hearing only 4 members of council are available to take action, which would be the case here, then the petitioner shall have the right to continue the matter until there are a minimum of 5 members. If there's less than a full council, then a petitioner may request to continue a matter, but it will not be as a matter of right. That sentence doesn't apply. So you will only have 4 members. It would require a unanimous vote in order to move forward. You do have the option to have it heard, or you have the option for a continuance. And if the matter does not get 4 votes, then it would, I believe, need to come back at a future meeting, the next regular meeting anyway. I believe that would be the rule. So
Sir?
what is your pleasure?
Just to make sure that I understand what you said there, Mr. Shelby.
Yes.
If the 4 votes are not achieved, then the vote does not fail. It just comes back to potentially the February 10th hearing together with the rezoning that I mentioned earlier.
I suspect that would be the case. Rule 6H says, if in a motion for quasi-judicial matter fails to receive at least 4 votes, the motion fails. And if another motion in order is not made, for instance, that motion to continue, the public hearing shall be automatically reopened and continued to a time certain at the next regularly scheduled council meeting, or whatever motion would be in order that you might request.
Okay. I think that what we'd like to do is go ahead and move forward. And obviously, if there are significant questions, I would ask the council for the latitude of possibly continuing it at the conclusion. If issues do arise that can be explained better with a full board, full commission. The application is fairly straightforward. Mr. Collins did I think did as well of a job as I possibly could have, outlining the fact patterns. As I had mentioned, the Methodist trustees of the Methodist Church no longer have use for this property. This was originally filed as a request for CMU 35 across the entire 2 acres. After some input from the community and from Planning Commission staff as well, that was later modified to what you see now, which is really just an extension of the CMU 35 corridor further 1 parcel south, the Res 10 as well. There is a small offset there that actually happens up above on the block to the north as well. The Planning Commission staff, again, as Mr. Collins articulated, has a very detailed report. The resolution that you have, I think, has 36 policies and objectives that this request is consistent with. And with that, I'd like to answer any questions or comments. I will say, actually, lastly, that I'm not aware that there is anyone on the phone participating by video that is going to have any objections. We have been engaging with both of the involved neighborhoods And to date, they seem pleased with the change from CMU 35 to 35 R10. It is the intent, and I know the council can't consider this, but I do want to put it on the record that the intent will come back for a townhome development to provide transition between the existing elder home and the single family to the north. It would be not to build the maximum number of units. The CMU 35 is the least intensive land use category that would be consistent with the commercial zoning on the front of the property adjacent to Manhattan. And so that was what was driving that consideration. Thank you.
Any questions for the gentleman? Any questions for the gentleman? All right, we have anybody on the second floor to speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development and Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone registered for this item?
For this item, we had Jean Strohmeyer. She's not logged on.
Says she's not logged on? She's not. All right. Ms. Maniscalco, move to close.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Miranda, if you would please.
Item number 4, file number TA/CPA 21-22. Orders being presented for first reading consideration. An orders amending the Image 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element, future land use map for the property located at 4510 South Manhattan Avenue from public semi-public to PS/SP to community mixed use 35, CMU 35 in quotations, and residentials 10, R10 in quotation, providing for repeal of all ordinance and conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Viera and I apologize. Motion carried with Citro and Dingfelder being absent. Carlson abstaining. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Mr. Shelby.
If I can, is the petitioner here on this? Is the gentleman still here?
Is the gentleman
downstairs?
still here?
Mr. Brooks?
There he is.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes, sir.
The second reading was announced for a particular date. Could you please repeat that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
And did you say that there was something that was going to be traveling with this, or you intended to, or you wish to have it?
There is a first reading on a plan development petition that is scheduled for first reading on February 10th.
And this, again, is scheduled for what day?
17.
The 17th.
The 17th.
I see.
That won't work.
And when,
It's not,
I'm sorry, is there a staff, Susan, Ms. Velez, I
yeah,
can't see you on.
Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. I don't believe that the comp plan amendment depends on the rezoning, or the rezoning depends on the comp plan amendment, which is why they were able to proceed this evening. So I don't know that that 1 week difference in public hearings is going to make a difference.
Okay. So are you satisfied, Mr. Brooks, with, I'm sorry, the question, Mr. Brooks, is, and then are you satisfied with that date and you're aware of the second reading? And then,
I am satisfied with that date. The second reading would happen before, the comp plan would happen before the second reading for
That's correct.
the plan development. I think we're okay with that procedurally.
okay, well, thank you very
Okay.
much, sir. Thank you, counsel,
you
I
for pointing
appreciate
it out.
that.
No, thank you. All right, okay, well, Mr. Shelby, it's after 6 now, and I see we still have one non-quasi proceeding, item number 12.
Yes, item number 12 is a 6 o'clock matter. Again, it is after 6 o'clock, and that is non-quasi judicial.
I'd like to take the non-quasi before we start the quasi, sir.
Thank
So
you, sir.
we're gonna go to item number 12, gentlemen.
Good call, Mr. Chairman.
Staff?
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission. I'm prepared to present on item number 12. If I could share my screen, please. Okay, so this is the comprehensive plan text amendment 21-01, which allows a floor area ratio blend in the Central Tampa Planning District before you for adoption. This is a privately initiated request that was transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity on June 24th. DEO had no comment on that request. However, the adoption hearing was continued by request of the applicant on September 30th. So it was supposed to be adopted on September 30th, and now it's back before you for that adoption hearing. This is the case in which staff had to request an extension agreement from the Department of Economic Opportunity. Florida statute says that the local government must hold the second public hearing within 180 days after receipt of agency comments. That 180 days was 2 days ago. So the Department of Economic Opportunity granted that extension until March 29th, 2022. I apologize. This is the language that was transmitted to the Department of Economic Opportunity. You all might remember it was back in June. Council had some concerns with the original language, so staff and the applicant had a sidebar and was able to come up with some language that council had some more comfort with. The first part of the policy is already in the plan, whereas if somebody has a parcel that has 2 land uses on it, that parcel during the zoning process, the density and intensity can be blended on the parcel and the uses can be spread. So there's not a strict line when we're reviewing those planned development zonings in urban villages if there's a split. This proposed request would expand that to lands outside of the urban village if it is within a half-mile radius and it is approved through a planned development or a planned development alternative zoning. And it must be located in the Central Tampa Planning District. The Central Tampa Planning District is important because that is where all 9 of the urban villages are today. So if you see the map on the right-hand side of the screen, the purple, yellow, orange colors, those are our designated urban villages. Everything in gray within this outline is not within an urban village. So urban villages take up approximately 53% of our Central Tampa Planning District. So right now this provision already applies in these colorful areas in Seminole Heights, East Tampa, Tampa Heights, West Tampa, Davis Island, Hyde Park, already have Channel District already has this provision. So this is just expand it to the areas that might be just outside of the urban village within a half-mile. The Planning Commission did find this consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is going to continue to promote that compact city form strategy. It's going to provide, allow for some greater intensity and density near the urban villages. But very importantly, the comprehensive plan states that we want to have flexibility in the development process and streamline the development of the city form encouraged by the comprehensive plan. This will allow developers to have more flexibility when they're designing sites through the PD zoning district if they do have 2 land uses and they're within a half-mile of an urban village. So with that, the Planning Commission recommends consistency. I'll just remind you all that the Department of Economic Opportunity already had no comment on this, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Malone? All right. You have an applicant?
Good evening, gentlemen. Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, which is Kettler and Daryl Shaw, who are the developers of the Gasworks project. If I could share my screen. Thank you. Okay, can you all see the PowerPoint on screen?
Top corner, we just blow it up a little bit, Tyler.
Is that good?
All right,
How's that?
we got it now. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you, sir. So Jennifer just did a great job addressing the timeline that was actually filed a little bit over a year ago. Time flies right now, and there's been a couple steps along the way. But what's I think really important is that the Planning Commission staff finds it consistent. The Planning Commission itself unanimously recommended approval. This council unanimously recommended the transmittal of this to Tallahassee based on a tweet that Jennifer alluded to, and the folks in Tallahassee at the Department of Economic Opportunity had no objections. And so we're here this evening for the first reading adoption. You all have a comprehensive plan items before you pretty frequently, and nearly, I think probably 90% of the time, it's because of a map. There's a map amendment, there's a future land use change where you're taking colors on the map in front of you from one color in density level to another color. But the comprehensive plan is also a 100,000 word document, about over 200 pages long, that's full of policies, some of which don't necessarily touch a development directly, some of which really do. And that's exactly why we're here this evening, because there's a very particular comprehensive plan policy that has an accidental limitation on the Gasworks project and on the Heights project as well, and other really large scale projects, which are unusual when they come up, but are certainly impactful. So the problem is that sometimes a project will have different future land use categories within it. And those varying density and intensity levels most often are dealt with by being able to spread the density across the whole site, maybe shift it away from single family, shift it away from a historic district. That right exists in urban villages, which, as Jennifer said, comprise 53% of that central Tampa planning district. However, there are a very small number of cases where there are gaps. There are voids where these urban villages don't touch the land, and it creates a situation where density can be stranded on parcels and not be shared within the same PD. And just so we're on the same page, all we're talking about here is changing, slightly modifying what a developer can ask for within a PD. We're not talking about sending density out of PDs or across unconnected parcels. This is all going to be contained and controlled by a PD or a PDA zoning, which of course this council would have to approve. One example of how this comes up is in the Armature Works development. I'm not here on behalf of Adam Hardin or the Armature Works developers. They do support this. I can mention that. The PDA for Armature Works happens to stretch just one parcel west of North Boulevard, but that parcel's not in an urban village, so all the density that's over there is stranded. Here's a more acute example of the problem. I beg some patience from you all. I'm going to show you some maps that have an awful lot of colors, and I'm going to do my best to keep it as coherent as possible. That area in gray that you see is not in an urban village. So this is the area along Adamo Drive, what's sort of considered the southern edge of Ybor City. Central Park, Ybor City, Channelside, those are all urban villages where this density spreading is allowed today. Those gray parcels, you cannot spread density. And that's a problem because what you're seeing on screen now is the outline in black hatch of the Gasworks project, the Darrell Shaw project, the full master plan for which will be coming to this council for approval. It is a pending zoning application. To be clear, you are going to have to approve this full master plan footprint. So the fact that that gray area inside our footprint, we can't spread density around, is a challenge. And here's one of the reasons why. Those starred parcels right there, those are RMU 100, which is a high density category, highest density outside the central business district. So you could ask for up to a 7.0 FAR on these parcels. And right now, the way the comprehensive plan is set up, we have to develop all of that density right on those parcels. We can't shift it to the west. We can't shift it to the south, further away from the Ybor City Historic District. We would have to develop it right there, and we'd have no ability to spread it within the black hatched edges of our site. And here's one more map to show why I think that's a problem. That teal line you see is the Ybor City Historic District. The Ybor City Historic District runs right through the middle of the Gasworks project, which is something that Darrell and Kettler and the design team have spent enormous amounts of time working through, and we're thrilled to show you the thoughts for that when we come to you for PDA approval. But what we're really concerned about is those starred parcels have density that in some cases we might want to move to the west, away from the historic district, to the south, away from the historic district. And the way the comprehensive plan is written right now, we can't do that. So the solution is, in our view, what Jennifer described, which is a very narrowly tailored amendment, text amendment to the comprehensive plan that would allow that sharing to extend just beyond the urban villages for projects that are a PD or a PDA, meaning they're going to come to you for approval. They're at least an acre in size, which is a pretty good sized project. And they're only within a half mile of that urban village boundary. So this might only affect Gasworks and the Armature Works project. This is an extremely narrowly tailored text amendment that we believe is good policy. The Planning Commission and their staff believe is good policy. We believe it's really necessary to promote the flexibility that the comprehensive plan discusses. And it's going to allow us to have a better Gasworks development that's more sensitive to the Ybor City Historic District by pushing some of the taller buildings, which, as everyone knows, Ybor City does not allow, further away, closer into downtown in the Channel District, where that would be more appropriate.
Tyler, go back to the screen.
Yes, sir.
Go back to your previous
Yes, sir.
screen. The previous screen, right there.
Sorry, yeah.
Let's see what street that is. Courtney going down. And we're saying take the bigger, your possible bigger buildings more to the west.
Yes, sir. We'd like to have the option. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, we'd like to have the option to push the taller building density because a 1 or a 3 or a 5 or a 7.0 FAR, that's going to affect the height just based on how big the land is. It's really just a math problem. And we want to be able to potentially shift height further to the west and perhaps to the south as well. Right now, anything within that yellow crosshatching, all of the density has to stay right there on that land. The rest of the area outside yellow, but within the black, I know there's a lot of colors on screen, you're able to share it around. And that's what we're seeking to do because we think it's going to make for a better development. And again, if I can go back a couple slides, that gray area is the challenge. It just happens to be a void. I think it's a little unusual that these parcels aren't in an urban village because this is certainly a very urban area of the city. It just so happens that there is this gap that I don't think anyone anticipated this outline of development pattern taking shape in, but that's how it happened. That's why we're here. It came up in connection with the Gasworks planning, and we know it's necessary, and we believe it's a really good idea to shift density, to give the developer the option to shift density to the west, to the southwest, where there is more of a pattern, at least of taller buildings. So that's why we're asking for this flexibility. But again, nothing that happens tonight changes the fact that we are going to have to come to you for approval for this PDA. But by approving this tonight, you give us a tool of flexibility that's going to really improve the product of what we're going to ask for your approval of in a couple of months. And before I conclude, I want to touch on the raise. I know that's sometimes an issue that can come up with Ybor City, Gasworks, and there's some confusion about that. What you see on screen is the K-Force and TICO parcels that have been considered a site for the raise, which I think they've discussed. If you approve this tonight, it doesn't change a thing about this because that K-Force raise site doesn't need the change we're seeking. It has the same future land use across the entire parcel, and it's fully located within an urban village already. So it's completely unlike Gasworks, which has different future land uses throughout it and different urban villages as well. So I know there can be some confusion with everything that's going on in Ybor City, and we just want to make it clear that this has nothing to do with the raise and that site. This site has what you could approve tonight would not change at all what can be done on that the K-Force site. So with that, I appreciate your patience with all the colorful maps. I'm happy to answer any questions, but this is a good policy. It's going to allow for better development, albeit in some very limited big projects. And I appreciate your time, Councilman.
Any question for Mr. Hudson? All right. Mr. Moran, you recognized?
I have no question really, but when I'm looking at the, why put nothing to do in the raise, but it's exactly where the raise are talking about possibly negotiating some contract with the city.
You're muted, sir.
Sorry, Chairman. Councilman Miranda, the map that I showed of the K4 site, that wouldn't change at all. What we're seeking tonight to get the flexibility to do with this text amendment, you can do today on the K4 site. It wouldn't affect that site at all. What this allows us to do is have a tool of flexibility to improve what we're going to be asking you to approve with the big PDA, the big rezoning that you'll have in a few months, by letting us to move some height, move some density away from the historic district. We think it's really important for us to have that flexibility, and that the reason we don't is just due to a little bit of a glitch in the code as it is right now, and that's what we're trying to fix.
I'm not having trouble hearing you. What I'm hearing is like an echo behind you, and it's hard to, not you, any other speakers that have been speaking have the same thing. When you have this call-in deal, it works fine, but sometimes you hear like an echo. I don't know about the other council members, but that's how I'm hearing it. I'm not sure that I'm by myself.
Sometimes it goes.
I'm sorry, Councilman. We very much miss being in there with you guys.
Anything else, sir?
No.
All right. Do we have anyone on the second floor to speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
All right. Anyone ready to speak on this item?
Yes, we have Jean Strohmeyer, but she's not logged on.
All right.
Move to
close. Mr. Maniscalco?
Yes.
Have a second, move close. Second, Mr. Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. All right, Mr. Carlson, number 12, if you don't mind, sir?
I'd like to move file number TA CPA 21-01, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan future land use element, amending land use policy 5.1.6 that would allow lands outside an urban village to proportionally weigh the should be FAR, right? Over the entire, can I just get legal to clarify that? That should be capitalized, right?
Ms. Velez?
Yes, it is capitalized in what I'm looking at, but yes, it is FAR.
Okay, mine's not.
That's less legal, yes. Thank you.
Weigh the FAR over the entire site and permitted uses within each of the land use plan categories to be considered anywhere on site if such land is located within 1/2 mile radius of an urban village boundary, and 2, such project is approved through a planned development or planned development alternative zoning that is at least 1 acre, and providing that this amendment shall not apply to any lands outside of the central Tampa Planning District, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing effectively.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
I'm gonna vote no, and maybe change my mind when it goes to second reading.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro and Dingfelder being absent, Miranda voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
All right. Item number 5.
Mr. Chairman.
Shelby, you recognize?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder to council, these are quasi-judicial proceedings. The witnesses will have to be sworn in prior to testifying. Also, council, this is the point where we discuss ex parte communications. If, with any of these hearings tonight, if you have previously disclosed an ex parte communication, it's not necessary to disclose it again. If there's been any additional ex parte communications, either verbally or on a platform other than the city email that needs to be disclosed, please do so before the hearing by stating the nature of the conflict, when it happened, and the substance, the sum and substance of the communication to the degree that you can. Also, that with regard to item number 5 specifically, there was a letter received by the clerk from Attorney Ethan Loeb relative to this matter, and I believe, Madam Clerk, you have received it and you have uploaded it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And with regard to all ex parte communications, including that letter and any other documents that have been made available for public inspection on the City Council's pages, the web page, I would ask that council make a motion, please, to receive and file.
So moved.
Mr. Scalco has moved it. Second?
Second.
Second, by Mr. Carlson, in favor?
Aye. I'd like to ask one question of the counselor. When it says received means transmitted to the city, I'm looking at received as received and seen by the council members, all of us, at one time or another. I don't know what the word received means. I don't want to get caught myself or any other one saying, no, I have not seen it, but somehow it was received 2 days ago and I haven't seen it or the other council members haven't seen it.
I understand, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, Mr. Miranda, if I can explain. My understanding is this was sent to the chair's office and to the city clerk. I was, and the city attorney, I believe, was CC'd, although I did not receive the email. I did not, wasn't aware of that letter, frankly, until this afternoon. So that being the case, it is being entered into the record to be made part of the record. If in the future council members wish to have those letters distributed to city council, that certainly is appropriate. I apologize for that not happening.
Allison DeWitt, something like that, sent it out, I believe, who emailed it.
Pardon me?
I believe the attorney was Allison DeWitt or something like that, who emailed it.
I believe it was Allison Doucette was the
Doucette,
email was
Doucette.
from, and I was not CC'd on that email, although I was CC'd in the letter, so I apologize to council. I do make sure that when those letters are received, they are entered into the clerk's file, and that's what the motion was. If council wishes to have those seen before that you make that motion, I'll make sure that that happens in the future if this case should happen again. Is that acceptable, Mr. Miranda?
Whatever you say is fine with me because I have, you know.
Mr. Shelby,
Yes.
just since everything is going on, if we receive more of those letters, it's just appropriate that all council members get it, so they'll have it.
Okay, so if for whatever reason I don't get it and the clerk gets it, I will just ask that the clerk make sure that that's distributed to both me, legal, and the city council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Ms. Cross, you recognize?
Mr. Shelby, just a reminder, the last time this came up, I frequented this place several times before we got the original application. I typically don't drink alcohol, so I had not had any alcohol there. But once the application came in, I have not been there since, so as not to have a conflict. But I've been to this place several times, and you said before that's not a conflict. If anybody thinks it's a conflict, I'm happy to recuse myself.
Okay, and I believe that previously other council members have disclosed attending or being present at that location, and certainly it is appropriate to inform the petitioner and the public of
Is this
that.
the cathedral, Mr. Shelby? Is this the cathedral?
This is Cathedral Cigars.
Okay, for the record, I have been there. I haven't been there since that came up, but I have been there and patronized before.
Okay.
Same goes for me. I haven't, it's been a long time, so.
Okay, well, thank you. And when normally council, just for the purposes of ex parte communications, when you conduct a site visit, it is appropriate and best to disclose that so that that's in the record and people are aware of the fact that you did visit the site. Thank you.
Are we ready to proceed?
Yes, I believe it's staff
There was a
online.
motion to receive and file, correct?
Yes, there was a motion to
All right,
receive.
I think Mr. Maniscalco's forwarded and
Second.
seconded by
Maniscalco
Mr.
and-
Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
And I believe this is a continued public hearing. Is staff present?
We have staff for item number 5.
Yes, sir. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Can I please be sworn in with the
You're
rest of my
gonna be
staff?
sworn in. Yes, sir.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Can I please have control of the screen? Wonderful. Great. Item number 5, AB 221-23. This is being heard for SU2 for alcoholic beverage sales for small venue consumption on premises only. The location is at 2201 North Florida, and this is for beer, wine, and liquor. The applicant is Steve Michelini at the address 2201 North Florida. The indoor space, there's 3,845 square feet, and outdoor is 1,953 square feet, for a total of 5,798 square feet. At this venue, the proposed use is a bar and lounge and retail sales. The parking, 29 spaces have been provided when required 88 spaces. This is causing for a proposed waiver from section 27-283.7. Hours of operation will be consistent with chapter 14. Moving along to the overhead aerial view. As you'll see, the parcel is outlined here in red, with East Francis Avenue to the south, East Amelia Avenue to the north. You have North Florida Avenue coming north and south along the west side, and to the east, you'll have North Morgan Street. This is in the Tampa Heights urban villages, and the distance separation requirement is 250 feet from other AB sales establishments. There are no AB sales establishments within the 250 feet, so they do not need to get a waiver. If you look at the overhead view of the aerial of the site plan, you'll see the establishment having the indoor AB sales area and the outdoor AB sales area. A look at the front of the building, you'll see the cathedral. To the west of the site, you'll see the ministries building. And to the south of the site, you'll also see more of the ministries, Metropolitan Ministries. To the east of the site, you'll see the residential single-family homes running all the way down the street. And to the north of the site, you'll see commercial establishments running up and down North Florida. The development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa code and ordinances. There are some minor corrections to the site plan that are required between first and second reading. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Zane, I didn't see in that report. Metropolitan Ministries has a school there, right?
Correct. It's adjacent to the property.
What's the rule on the school to the alcoholic beverage facility?
This is actually in the Tampa Heights urban villages. So as per the code, the only distance separation is required from AB sales establishments.
Thank you. Any other questions for Zane? All right, no question. We'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Council. Steve
Have you been
McAlee.
sworn, sir?
Yes, sir, I have
All right.
been sworn. Let me put this up on the overhead to show you. This is what the cathedral originally looked like, and it's been completely restored, and this is what it looks like today. We've worked very closely with Metropolitan Ministries and also with the Tampa Heights Neighborhood Association, and to my knowledge, we have no objections from either one of them. We have reduced the size of the requested area so that we're no longer a large venue. We are now a small venue, and we have put in additional protective measures that are reasonable for the neighborhood and sensitive to them, and mitigation measures which ensure public health, safety, and welfare of the general area. The location is sensitive and appropriate for adaptive reuse, and it complies with the special use criteria. It is compatible with low intensive use of the rehabilitated property in the building, and the protective measures have been incorporated into the site plan. The use is compatible with the comprehensive plan, and it is a unique and singular use and will not establish a precedent, and its use is limited to the site itself. The ingress and egress has been previously established and located on a major roadway, so it's not in the neighborhood, and that is along Florida Avenue. We have provided as a condition on the site plan that monitoring will continue to help ensure that there are not any off-site impacts for parking along the residential area. And we also have secured an off-site parking area that has 75 parking spaces to help mitigate the request for the, for the waiver. And in reference to the site, we have met, and the building has already met all of the issues regarding lighting, utilities, drainage, and as generally the off-site impacts have been addressed on the site plan through buffering, landscaping, hours of operation, et cetera. So we now, as I said, we are now in the small venue realm, and we believe that we have met the criteria. We've certainly met with the neighbors exhaustively. We've met with them on more than one occasion to ensure that all of the conditions that they were looking for to mitigate this were addressed. As I said, we've reduced the area. The inside area remains the same, and it has a second floor open area from the second floor down to the first floor. So none of that will change. And according to the life safety code, that is what's driving our occupancy. But anyone who's been in there, you can't imagine that you would have that many people inside that building at all. It simply is not going to happen. That physically can't happen. But anyway, according to the life safety code, we are providing the spaces that we can, the off-site parking. We're providing monitors during special events and heavy use to ensure that there is no impact on the off-site areas. We've placed signs up along the fence line on Francis Street that encourage patrons not to park in the neighborhood, but rather to utilize the parking and the valet for special events. The third element is that we wanted to make sure that there was an adequate buffer along the east side. So the owners are in the process of purchasing the building immediately to the east, and we've committed to making sure that would remain as a residential property and not be converted to commercial use in the future. As I said, we have, I believe we've reached an agreement with Metropolitan Ministries. We have presented these plans to the homeowner association, and to my knowledge, we have no objections. So I'll be happy to reserve any time that you might need for answering any further questions. But I would respectfully request that we move forward and approve this project.
Any questions for the applicant? Being none, anyone on the second floor to speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development and Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone registered to speak on this item?
There are no registered speakers for this item.
All right. Move to close. Mr. Maniscalco, you recognize.
So everything was resolved with Metropolitan Ministries. I see that there's nobody here, so I think it's.
Sorry, I think I'm registered to speak. I'm John Dix. I represent Metropolitan Ministries.
Do you have John Dix ready to speak, Madam Clerk?
Well,
yes, we do have him registered to speak. However, he would need to fix his video. We cannot see him.
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with my video.
All right. Well, he's okay. All right. Well, we'll go to Mr. Dix.
I'll try to fix it.
All right, well, while he's trying to work on it, I'll go ahead and let Mrs. Maniscalco ask his questions to Mr. Michelini, who has been sworn.
Yes, sir.
I think Councilman Maniscalco had a question for you.
So was everything resolved with Metropolitan Ministries? Because I know that quite a few people were here last time.
Yes, sir. I can assure you that if we hadn't reached an agreement, this house would be full. We spent a lot of time working directly with John Dix and reviewing the site plan, adding additional language to the site plan, which added the protective measures that they were looking for. We also spent a considerable time with the homeowner association doing exactly the same thing. So I believe they will tell you that they have no objections and that we have reached an agreement with them regarding the operations and how we will mutually exist or coexist at this location in a favorable and productive manner.
Thank you very much. Since Mr. Dix's camera, I don't know if it's working yet.
I don't believe
Can I
it is.
ask
I'm going
him
to try
if-
to log off and log back on.
Okay.
If we can, Mr. Chairman, if you like, we can hold this item if you wish, and then come back to it.
Give him a few seconds.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank
give him
you.
a few seconds, then we'll move on. Is that you, Mr. Dix?
It is. It is, Mr. Chairman, but I
Can't-
suppose my camera's still not working.
All right, well,
Fortunately for me, my colleague Jim Porter is there, so he could address you.
all right, well,
while
Mr.
my
Porter's
camera's
there.
not
Is he
working.
logged on?
He's downstairs on 2, I believe. Mr. Dix, are you using a desktop or a laptop?
A laptop. A laptop, and I'm not really sure
All right, well, we need to move on. We've heard from Mr. Michelini.
what the
who's
issue is, but I've just communicated our position to Mr. Porter, and he's going to address you momentarily.
then-
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties.
All right, Mr. Porter's what there. You've been sworn in.
I
down
have
there,
been
sir?
sworn. Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chair and Council. My name is Jim Porter. I'm with the law firm of Ackerman, 401 East Jackson Street. I'm here for another item, but Mr. Dix has communicated to me, he is my law partner, that we did have objections. We've worked out the objections. We have an agreement with the applicant, and we have no objections at this time on behalf of Metropolitan Ministries. Thank you.
Move to close.
Second.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco's moved to close. Say what, Mr. Moran, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. I think it's Mr. Vieira's turn. If you don't mind, sir, number 5.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, large venue consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 2201 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida, is more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, if I
You
can.
recognize Ms. Shelby?
You know what? I didn't read the substitute ordinance.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
if we can, why don't we just, if we can, just make a motion to accept the substitute, and then he can read that title.
That'll be fine.
So a motion to accept the
Motion to accept
substitute?
substitute?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call.
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, and Booth.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Citro being absent.
And now, Mr. Vieira, if you could read the substitute's title, please.
Thank you for that, and Susan, thank you for that, as always. I move a substitute ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance approving special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 2201 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida, is more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Council. I'd like to shout out to all those who helped us get to this point, and we greatly appreciate everyone working together to resolve those issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item number 6.
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Case number 6, AB 221-24. This is a special use 2 for alcoholic beverage sales for a small venue, consumption on premises only, for beer, wine, and liquor at the location 1515 East 7th Avenue, Suite 101. Can I please have control of the screen?
Mr. Shelby, just for the record, I've patronized this location. I know the owners, but that would not in any way hinder me making a decision this evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just inquire, you do not have any financial interest in this particular matter before you, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the fact that you've been to that location and the fact that you do know the owners, will you and are you able to be fair and impartial and base your decision on the competent substantial evidence in the record?
I am, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We may continue. Thank you. You're muted, Zane. Still muted.
There, wonderful. Is my screen showing?
Screen showing, sir.
Thanks so much. AB 221-24, the representative is Sean Robinson here.
Yes.
The indoor area, sales area is 2,528 square feet. Parking is not required, as is in the Ybor district. There's also the sales hours are going to be consistent with Chapter 14. One waiver is requested here to reduce the required distance separation requirement from other AB sales establishments from 250 feet to 39 feet. 39 feet away is the Honey Pot Residence or establishment at 1507 East 7th Avenue. The proposed bar and lounge here, restaurant and retail sales area, will have pedestrian access to the site along East 7th Avenue. As you see the overhead view of the site, you'll see East 7th Avenue coming along to the north, North 15th Street coming along from the west, to the east, North 17th Street, and to the south, East 6th Street. Up and down 7th Avenue, you'll find restaurants, retail stores, bar, lounges, and commercial establishments. As you see the site plan of the establishment with access coming from East 7th Avenue. As I went out to the site, took a picture of the site as it is with the SU2 public notice sign in the window. And to the east of the site, you'll see up and down 7th Street. And to the west of the site, you'll see up and down 7th Street also. To the north of the site, you'll see another establishment that sells hookah and other retail goods, and also restaurant, bar, lounge. Development review staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. Minor corrections are needed to the site plan, which can be made between first and second reading. Thank you. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions for Zane? Being none, we'll hear from the applicant, Mr. Robinson.
Just so you know, I have not been sworn in. Yep.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
If you could please your right hand. Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Sean Robinson representing Odelma Matos and La Ferrona Cigars. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. We concur with the staff report, and do request the approval of the 250-foot waiver. I'm here for questions if you have any.
Any questions for council? All right. Being none, anyone on the second floor to speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
Anyone ready to speak on this item?
There are no registered speakers for this item.
Move to Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Randall. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. That we left off Mr. Vieira. Mr. Maniscalco, sir.
Did I see in one of the photos across the street that they painted the facade of the building and restored one of the older signs? Did you notice that or not?
I saw it was like yellow, right? Was it like
Yeah.
the whole yellow? Yeah.
All right. An ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue, consumption on premises only, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 1515 East 7th Avenue, Suite 101, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
and Gould.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
All right, item number 7.
Mr. Chairman.
You're
Thanks so
recognized.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Dingfelder for the record. So my wife and I own property within the notice circle of 6500 North Florida Avenue. So I'll be abstaining or recusing myself, Mr. Shelby.
You will abstain.
I will be abstaining, and I'll leave the room just for convenience.
All right. Staff?
Thanks so much. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination, going over case number 7, AB 221-26. This is special use 2 permit for alcoholic beverage sales for a restaurant, consumption on premises only. This is for beer, wine, and liquor at 6500 North Florida Avenue. The applicant here is Jim Porter. This is for a restaurant, beer, wine, and liquor. And on the site plan, as you'll see, is 6500 North Boulevard. Okay, go back. Is 2,045 square feet indoors, 232 square feet outdoors, for a total of 2,277 square feet total. There is 2 waivers being required here. Staff found another waiver being from transportation to reduce the required parking from 12 spots, as is an overlay, to 0 with 100% reduction. This should be added between first and second reading. Another waiver to reduce the required distance separation from 250 feet to 0 feet from other AB sales establishments. As you'll see the overhead aerial here, with East Diana Street coming to the north. Along the east side, you'll see North Florida Avenue, West Lambright Street coming from the south, and also from the west, you'll have North Adriana Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I
No,
don't
we
know
don't see
whether,
any, we don't see anything, Zane.
I don't know if your screen is up.
Your screen's not up.
Can we please retry sharing my screen? How about now?
All right, we got it.
Good. Thank you so much. As you'll see, the parcel outlined here in red, East Diana Street to the north, West Lambright Street to the south, North Adriana Avenue to the west, and up and along north and south to the east, you'll have North Florida Avenue. You'll see the subject parcel here, 2,045 square feet indoor AB sales with 232 square feet outdoors for a total of 2,277 square feet. As I stated, the applicant has 0 parking spots, so 100% reduction is being requested. If you come out to the site, this is what it looks like. If you see the site, the front door, and up and down the strip. To the north of the site, you'll have commercial up and down North Florida Avenue. To the south of the site, you'll also have commercial and restaurants up and down. To the east of the site, you have more commercial and also residential. And to the west of the site, you'll have residential single family coming up and down the street on West Lambright. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. Minor corrections to the site plan must be made between first and second reading if approved. Thank you. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions for Zane? I've got one. Zane, this is going to be
Yes, sir.
a restaurant that's serving beer, wine, and liquor, correct?
Correct.
Can you go back to the building, the actual picture you had of the building with the parking that was there? Kind of confused on that. Back up, go forward.
Yes, sir.
Right, that's the building, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
And I see parking
So-
spaces.
Understood. So the backup here, FDOT will not approve the parking spaces
Okay.
because the backup, there's no backup on property. You'll have to go out to the major road in North Florida. So the parking spaces are not recognized by staff or FDOT.
Wish you had another view of the other side of that building there.
Let's see. This is an overhead view of the site plan if you help you out better. And then also, if you see the North Florida here, the parking spaces are right here, sir.
Okay. And the new rule with FDOT won't let you come out because there's not enough space to go into that traffic, correct?
Correct.
All right, any questions for Zane? All right, we're from the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. This is Jim Porter again, 401 East Jackson Street. I'm with the Ackerman Law Firm. I'm representing the applicant. The parking question is a very good one. Just for the record, this is the restaurant's the Rooster and the Till. It's been operating at this site since 2013. There's plenty of parking there. We just can't officially show it on the site plan or recognize it. In addition to the parking spaces that Zane pointed out that are on the site plan, there's use of a parking lot across the street. So parking has not been an issue. There is plenty of parking, but we can't show it on the site plan, hence the waiver request. Again, the only thing that's different will be different going forward is we're adding the sale of liquor. And it's been an existing restaurant since 2013, selling beer and wine. We've had no objections from any of the neighbors. We did have a request that we consider a limitation on hours of operation from the neighborhood, which we're happy to comply with. So if this is approved between first and second reading, we would add to the site plan an hours of operation limitation for 11 p.m. on weekdays and midnight on the weekends. Those were the hours that they were using before COVID, and once they get back up and running again and COVID is over, they will anticipate having those hours of operation too, and we're happy to put that on the site plan. We concur with the staff report and the recommendations, and we respectfully ask for your approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Any question, Mr. Porter?
No, Mr. Shelby, I don't know if we need to disclose this every time, but I've also frequented this place, but not recently.
Okay, and you can be fair and impartial.
Be fair and impartial.
And if I could just inquire of staff, is that, with regard to Mr. Porter's suggestion that that would be added to the hours of operation between first and second reading?
Yes, sir. I'll have Mr. Porter add it, please.
Okay, and that'll be part of the motion, council, if you so choose to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. Any question for Mr. Porter? All right, anyone else on the second floor to speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone ready to speak on this item?
There are no registered speakers for this item.
All right, move to close.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Miranda, second by Ms. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. I think we left off of Mr. Maniscalco. Mr. Miranda, it's your turn. We kind of.
All right, sir. Item number 7, file number AB 2/21/26. An ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance approving a special use permit SU for alcohol beverage sales, restaurant consumption on premise only, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcohol content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain lot, plot or tract of land located at 6500 North Florida Avenue, Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 2, from providing that all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict or repeal, providing an effective date.
With the revisions of the time, Mr. Shelby?
Yes, the statement of the hours of operation
Hours of
again.
operation?
And the hours of operation as stated by the petitioner.
All right.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor? Correction, roll call. I'm sorry.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro being absent, Dingfelder abstaining. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, council.
Gentlemen, can we take a 5-minute recess, please? 5-minute
Yes,
recess,
yes, sir,
gentlemen?
yes, sir.
Thank you. We coming out.
Yeah.
We coming out. Got COVID.
here.
Present.
All right, item number 8. Man, who turned the AC on this place, man? Holy, oh,
You're cold? I'm
freezing
never,
this
I'm
place.
never cold.
Staff for number 8? Oh, they on recess too, huh? Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Spike me up, okay. Okay. My man Zane, we ready? All right,
Yes, sir. Ready to go.
All right.
Thank you so much. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination, case number 8, AB 221-27. This is an SU2 for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue, consumption on premises, and package sales off premises consumption. This is for beer, wine, and liquor at the location 2102 East 4th Avenue. Can I please have control of the screen? Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. The applicant here is Sam Myers. For the indoor space, we have 1,140 square feet for indoor and 502 square feet for outdoor space, for a total of 1,642 square feet of AB sales establishment. The required parking for the site is 18 parking spaces, and the applicant has provided 19 parking spaces for the site. The hours of operation will be consistent with Chapter 14 of the zoning code. The subject property distance separation requirement is 250 feet from other AB sales establishments. And the applicant is requesting a waiver to reduce this required distance separation of the 250 feet to 0 feet. As you see the site outlined here in red, you'll have East 6th Avenue and the 7th Avenue to the north. Along the west side, you'll have North 21st Street. Along the south, you'll have East 4th Avenue. And along the east side, you'll have North 22nd Street.
Zane, can you blow that up? I mean, we can barely see that on that.
Oops, if I can pull in. Better?
No, it's the same. Go ahead and continue. We gotta get some better maps, man. You can see that.
Yes, sir. You see the overhead aerial view of the site plan here with AB sales establishment. And coming to the actual site itself, you have the Tampa Bay Rum Company here, as you'll see the entrance. And the sign outside here on the site. Along the south side, you'll have commercial space along the south. The east side, you'll have commercial and also office space. To the east side, you'll have more commercial space up and down 4th. And to the north, you'll also have commercial and also restaurant use. The Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. Minor corrections to the site plan are required between first and second reading if approved. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any question for Zane? All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
Oh, I did have a question.
Okay, Mr. Dingfellow, you recognize?
Mr. Hussein. Mr. Hussein,
Yes, sir.
when you put up your chart, if you could go back to the sort of that matrix that you started with.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it says craft distillery, retail package sales, consumption off premises only.
Yes, sir. That was approved for that site during AB 1-1707.
Okay.
They have an active AB sales permit at this time.
Okay, so that's the existing or the previous permit, and then this one is not restricted to the craft process?
No, sir. This is a small venue beer, wine, and liquor for the consumption on premises and the package sales off.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Zane? All right, we'll go to the applicant.
Good afternoon,
Have you been sworn in,
council.
sir?
My name is Benjamin Stronzel. I'm with Mandelbaum Fitzsimmons.
Have you been sworn in?
Yes, I was sworn in earlier.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate everybody's time. This is my first time doing it by Zoom. Last time we were in front of everybody, so a little different. But as you can see from Zane's presentation, and we appreciate all Zane's assistance in this one, we're seeking, a special use 2 for expanded wet zoning on this premises. The only waivers that we're seeking per Zane are other AB sales in the area. This is just a couple blocks south of 7th Avenue, so there are other bars and restaurants in that area. I believe we've identified in Zane's report how many were actually there, and that's on a site plan as well. I think it was 10 or 11. So we are looking for a reduction of the distance separation from other AB sales from the 250 feet to 0 feet. This is a family-run operation. There's not a huge place. They don't have late-night hours. They have close ties with the community. As far as I know, there were no objections that were raised or anybody that was going to speak in opposition. There was no issues with the community or any public health or safety issues. And I'm here to answer any questions, and we respectfully request that you approve this project.
Any questions for the gentleman? Any questions for the gentleman? All right, anyone else on the second floor to speak on this item?
Yes.
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
All right.
There are no
Anyone
registered, no registered speakers for this item.
Second.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco has moved. Mr. Miranda seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. All right. Yeah. I think we left off on Mr. Carlson, didn't we? No, we left on Mr. Miranda, I believe, right?
I did the last one.
Did the last one? Mr. Dingville has just been here. So number 8, sir, if you would. You together there?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. In regard to file number AB2-21-27, I will move the following ordinance for first reading consideration. An ordinance approving a special use permit, S2, for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue, consumption on premises, and package sales off premises consumption, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor, on that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 2102 East 4th Avenue, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in Section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, provided an effective date.
Second.
Signal, Ms. Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
All right. Item number 9.
Thank you so much, sir. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination. Case number 9, AB 221-28. If I could please share my screen. Wonderful. The representative is Tim Alberti, and the location is at 3225 South McDill Avenue. This is requesting a special use approval for the sale of alcoholic beverage sales for a small venue, beer and wine consumption on premises, and package sales off premises consumption. The proposed use here is retail, with the indoor sales only at 5,521 square feet. The sales hours will be consistent with Chapter 14. The applicant has been asked to request 2 waivers here to reduce the required distance separation from 250 feet to 0 feet for other sales establishments, and to also reduce the required distance separation from 250 feet to 231 feet from residential uses, which can and will be added between first and second reading if approved. As you see, the site located in red bold here. You'll have South McDill Avenue running north and south. As you look at the site plan here, overhead view, you'll see a strip center of retail establishments and restaurants. If you look at the view of the site here, you'll see the strip of retail and sales of restaurant establishments. To the south, you'll have a school. To the east, you'll have multifamily residential. And to the north, you'll have commercial and restaurant use up and down South McDill Avenue. The Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. Minor corrections to the site plan must be made between first and second reading if approved. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions? Mr. Dingfelder, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Zane. So going back to your photograph of the strip center, and we're all familiar with the strip center, Pane Rustica is the major tenant there. Which of these storefronts is the subject, the subject storefront?
Yes, sir. The subject store establishment is 123 at this location.
And what is it, an existing restaurant or a proposed use? Or what?
Proposed.
Huh?
Proposed, sir.
Okay. Do you happen to know what's there now or no?
I believe it is vacant at this time.
Okay. And again, going to your matrix, you showed X number of parking spaces out in that parking lot total. How do you allocate between those various establishments when it comes to parking? I mean, clearly, it doesn't surprise me. There's 261 spaces in that whole parking lot. Anybody who goes there midday knows that there's not a whole lot of parking available. So how do you allocate 157 spaces to this particular one?
I would like to defer this to Jonathan Scott from Transportation Engineering. Deals with the parking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Jonathan Scott, City of Tampa, Transportation Planning. I have been sworn. To answer your question, Mr. Dingfelder, the parking calculation is just based on the entire site, and it's just a shared parking for the whole complex.
Okay, so
it's really not designated. It's just an open parking.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand they're not designated. I guess I'm more curious than anything. I mean, what if every one of those retail spaces, decided to have some type of establishment, and they're not allocated, I just don't understand the process. And I don't necessarily have a problem with this one. I just don't understand the process.
Yeah, if they would make a change that would result in the change of use, then they would have to come back for another parking waiver. This was already, their parking waiver is kind of like set from previous, before. So it's already, they already have a built-in parking waiver. They're not asking for a new parking waiver now, but if someone did come in with a more intense use, they would have to get a new approval for a new increased parking reduction.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about it offline sometime. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I'd like to see in the future, Zane, you show the photo of the building, but Mr. Dingfelder was like, well, show me this property where it's at. So I see his point to where we have a photo here, but where's the business at? So I think in the future, we need to be taking shots of what that property is and where they're located at. And also with your aerials, it needs to be to where we can actually see the area of where the business is, so I can see the streets and where it's at. Because when the aerial you showed on your previous screens, a lot of us, they're so small, we can't see those streets, or we can't see what's outlined in your using your first shots. Yeah, the last hearing before, I couldn't even see the little dot. So that's just for FYI for the future. But Mr. Dingfelder is right in reference to the frontage shot to see what the building is. So. Any other further questions on this for Zane? All right. We'll move on to the applicant then. Have you sworn, ma'am?
Yes, I was sworn earlier.
All right.
Jamie Mayer for the applicant, law firm of Hillward & Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700 in Tampa. I will try to be as quick as possible, but I do have some slides in the interest of time, I'm going to show them on the screen, or the this. Can I adjust this camera so that it's pulled back a little bit? Thank you.
Okay.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you. So I think I can clarify a few things about this shopping center. We're representing Redneck Wine Company. They currently have a space in the shopping center that they're using for their use. They have a 2 COP existing, and they're basically moving from one side of Panne Rustica to the other. So they're taking, well, it's a little dark there, but so this is Redneck Wine currently. This is Panne Rustica, and this is Village Health Market. So Redneck Wine is going to be moving into the space that is currently occupied by the Village Health Market. It's just a much bigger retail area. So they are currently a use in that shopping center. They're a wine retailer, and they're only asking for beer and wine sales, for package and retail sales, and on-premises consumption for the purpose of some wine tastings. So their operations are not going to change from the way they currently are in the current use. Again, as I mentioned, they're a wine retailer. They sell products in store. You can kind of see from the picture how they're generally laid out currently, but they also do a lot of online orders. They're going to have 6 fixed seats for a tasting area. This does not rise to the level of being a bar or lounge under the code, because that would require over 10 seats. Again, the applicant has said to me many times, I am not interested in getting into the bar business. So he currently holds small tastings for events such as when a winemaker is in town, and he wants to keep it that way. The hours of operation are also going to stay the same, and currently they are Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's not a late night operation. Again, this is the site plan a little bit blown up. I've circled the current where they're currently leasing, and with the arrow shows where they're going to be moving. They're both kind of irregularly shaped units, but as you can see, where they're moving is a lot bigger, and that's where Village Health Market currently is. It's going to be a total of 5,521 square feet of AB sales area, no outdoor area proposed, and as was discussed with the parking, this is retail to retail, so it's retail wine sales where currently there's like a retail grocery store, and so the parking count for that particular unit doesn't change because we're not changing the overall use. And this existing parking space count, as discussed earlier, was approved from a prior AB2, which actually I was in front of you for that earlier last year for that Cheese Please, which you may recall. Here is the floor plan. It's a little difficult to see because of all the hatching. This is a life safety plan, so they kind of hatch out all the different types of areas, but basically, you can see there's going to be a lot of wine racks, wine cooler, wine cellar, shipping area, administrative areas, and in the very back, it's the little tasting area kind of tucked amidst the wine racks. So again, just a quick overview of the previously approved waivers. They reduced loading berths and increased compact parking spaces. I don't know actually what applications, those were not ours, but those are prior. There's been a lot of applications involved with this site. And then of course, previously approved the required parking from 261 to 157 spaces. And as staff described, the new waivers that we're asking for are also the same that would come up with any AB application in this site, from 250 feet to 231 feet for the residential uses across McDill to the east, and of course to 0 feet for other AB uses, because there are a number of other AB uses in the shopping center. And I apologize that this is also not a very large photo, but the red star kind of shows the location of the site, and there's other AB uses in there, and the residential is across the street. There's a condominium complex here, and those are both zoned CG, but they're used as residential. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I just wanted to briefly touch on the special use criteria. This is going to be it's an existing use. Basically, they're just shifting their use from one unit to another unit that's bigger. We did receive 55 letters in support from people around South Tampa and the immediate area, Palmacia, Hyde Park, even as far as St. Pete, and also some places like Odessa and I think Ruskin in Hillsborough County. So a lot of people come here. They've been very fortunate as a business to grow. And so they could use the extra space to continue succeeding in their business, and they respectfully request City Council's approval. Thank you.
Carlson, you recognize, sir?
What happens to the license in the existing space?
I believe those run with the land. I think city attorney could confirm, but I believe AB zoning does run with the land.
But legal is
Susan Johnson has legal department. Yes, AB permits do run with the land.
But if one owner owns a whole strip like this, and they want to switch a license from one area to another, do we ever approve one and take another one away?
No, AB permits run with the land, so this is why he can't just transfer the one he's got to his new location.
No,
He has
but
to
I
come
understand
in
that,
and-
but do they ever agree in exchange for having a new one that they would take away an old one?
I've never had that situation come up, sir. They run with the land, and so it's like a rezoning. You can't take one away if you're, you can't undo the rezoning until somebody comes in with a new zoning proposal.
Yeah, my concern would be what goes in the other space.
Mr. Dingfelder, recognize?
Well, just as a follow-up to Mr. Carlson's excellent question, it is a bit of an unusual circumstance. I would agree with you, Susan. I don't remember seeing anything like that, where somebody would sort of swap out or even suggest to swap out. But I guess it begs the question of, could they voluntarily terminate an AB, an existing AB that's on the property? Now, in this case, I don't know if the applicant is actually the property owner of this plaza or just merely the tenant. I have a feeling it's just the tenant who's coming in, but I don't know.
Well, council adopted an ordinance approving an AB permit or a wet zoning. I'm not sure what actually the type of approval is on the existing location, but there would be an ordinance approving that, or some sort of approval that would run with the land. So if it was by ordinance, then obviously council would have to adopt an ordinance changing that use in some form or fashion. But again, that would be something I would like to look into and respond to at a later time.
It's an interesting question. Well, my question goes to Ms. Meyer. You mentioned, Jamie, where are you?
I'm here somewhere.
Lost in space. There you are. Anyway, you mentioned hours of operation, and you had a slide for that. What did it say?
I can pull it back up, but I can also just tell you it's Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sundays, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, because the hours of operation on your site plan say consistent with Chapter 14, which I believe is 3 a.m.
We will change that. If you want to add that, we certainly can change that, because I did confirm with the applicant he has no intention of expanding from his current hours of operation.
I think that would be great, and perhaps allay some of Mr. Carlson's concerns as well about too many potential late night establishments at this one plaza. So if you would voluntarily offer that
yes.
to between first and second reading to change that on the site plan and work with staff to do so, then I'm fine with this petition.
Any other questions for the petition? Being none, anyone on the second floor to speak on this item?
Nobody but Eileen.
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
All right, anyone on the second, anyone registered to speak on this item?
No registered speakers for this item.
Second.
Mr. Maniscalco, move to close. Mr. Miranda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Vieira, closes out for the night with this number 9.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance approving special use permit, SU2, for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue, consumption on premises and package sales, off premises consumption, and making lawful the sale of beer and wine at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 3225 South McDill Avenue, suite number 123, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco, roll call.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
And I'm sorry, did you include the hours of operation, Lewis?
And thank you, sir, Councilman Dingfelder, I include that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so including the change to the hours of operation as stated by the applicant. I will vote yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, council.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 10 and number 13.
Case number
So he
10,
was closing his
Zain
office.
Hussein, Development Coordination, going over AB 221-30. This is a special use 2 approval to allow the sale of alcoholic beverage sales for a small venue, beer, wine, and liquor consumption on premises and package sales off premises consumption. The applicant is 301 Rome LLC with Representative Tower Hudson. The site is 1,500 square feet, indoors only. For parking, they've provided 4 parking spaces, which was approved in case REZ 18-23. The site plan needs to state the hours of operation, but verbally the applicant said they will be consistent with Chapter 14. One waiver is being requested here to reduce the required distance separation requirement from other AB sales establishments from 250 feet to 0 feet. The proposed use here is retail sales. As you see the parcel outlined here in red, you have North Rome Avenue running up and down to the west, north and south. You have West Gray Street above to the north. To the south, you'll have West North A Street. And also to the east, you'll have North Oregon Avenue. Surrounding the property, I'll show you pictures, but you have Willa's, a restaurant and coffee shop here to the west. Also, you have a parking lot to the west. You have commercial up and down North Rome. To the north and also to the east, you have NoHo Flats apartment complex, and also you have Roman Fig restaurant directly north to the parcel. If you see here the site plan, you'll see the AB sales establishment with 1,500 square feet, indoors only. And Roman Fig is right to the north, right there. As I went out to the site, I took pictures of the sign, where it's located on the strip. To the east, you'll see NoHo Flats, multi-residential apartment complex. The actual site itself, Suite 301. To the south of the site, you'll see the parking lot belonging to Willa's, and then also north and south, you'll see more commercial establishments. And to the west of the site, you will see Willa's restaurant. To the north of the site, you'll see the residential multifamily structure I talked about, NoHo Flats. In doing so, the development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds it inconsistent with the applicable City of Tampa Code of Ordinances. Minor corrections to the site plan must be made between first and second reading if approved. Thank you. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Thank you, recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Zane. Just I'm sure a minor discrepancy. The site plan I'm looking at says 311 North Rome. The ordinance says 311 North Rome. The photograph you showed, it appeared to me on quick glance when you said this is the place, seemed to say 301 on the building. So,
Correct. Talking to the applicant and also site plan, it is 301 North Rome.
It's 301?
Correct.
All right, well, I guess we better get that straightened out
Yeah, that's just
before,
311 here on this,
before we read it. So anyway, go ahead, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Hudson.
all right, Tyler Hudson, okay, applicant.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. It's an honor to be here with Nicole and Tim Johnson, who are the proprietors. But before I jump in, we do need to be sworn.
Madam Clerk?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am, you recognize?
Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department. Tyler, if you can address this, I'm hoping you would anyway, but your description sketch also indicates 311 North Rome. So we've got a lot of, I just need to be sure what we're.
Sure. Yeah, before I jump into the presentation, I'll go ahead and address this.
I'm mostly concerned, Susan, with the notice.
Correct.
What did the notice letter say? What did the sign say? Sorry about that.
While you're doing that, Ms. Velez, Mr. Hudson, what is the actual location of this property?
So the building, my client could talk about this a little bit, but the entire building, I think it shows up in the property appraiser as 301, but this has a postal address, the specific box of 311. It's not like a unit number. That's what I understand.
So,
The notice says 311.
not to confuse things even more, but Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department, I'm looking at the AB2, the affidavit here, it says 303 North Rome.
The clerk has in her file 311, so.
Yeah, 311.
And 301, yeah.
I think some of the confusion, because is that 301 Rome is the LLC that owns the entire building, so that's what shows up as the applicant. But we're very confident that 311 Rome is the address. That's where mail is going to go to, and that's what was appropriately noticed.
So the property location address on your affidavit to apply for your AB2 says 303 North Rome. It's part of the application. I'm just looking through here.
So there's a couple of restaurants on that same strip on either side. Maybe one of them is 311. I don't know. It's a little problematic.
To make sure we properly noticed that address, the correct address. Mr. Shelby?
Well,
Recommendations?
I think the file needs to be reviewed. I don't know whether it's appropriate to do it now, but I don't think it's appropriate to move forward unless we have assurance from the clerk's office and Ms. Johnson Velez that there is no notice issue. I mean, that would be more than problematic.
Well,
And frankly, just sitting here, it's hard for me to follow what the discussion is, frankly. I'm getting the fact that there's a lot of
Do
confusion.
we need to continue this, sir, until we make sure they properly notice, make sure we got the right addresses? That's my question to you or to Susan Johnson Velez. I don't want to belabor this for the night, so.
I think Susan has the last word.
And also, I believe Mr. Hudson had something he wanted to say. I thought I heard him. Mr. Hudson.
If you'd like to take the next agenda item and switch us, I can do my best to provide notice. I'm covering this one. Can we do that?
I would rather hear from Ms. Johnson Velez to see where we stand legally on this, because we've got so many different possible scrivener errors right now in posting of the notice out in the community. So I want to make sure where we stand legally before we move forward and waste any more time this evening.
And I don't, do you have the copy, Ms. Johnson Velez, of the signage, the posting of the signage that would be filed with the clerk? Do you have that there?
I do not have a copy of the sign or the notice letter, but I'm just looking at the description sketch, which I assume
Madam Clerk has
coincides
it.
with.
I have it, and it does state 311 North Rome Avenue.
Yeah, the sign doesn't have the address. The sign, I don't think there's any question that the signs were posted correctly. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, to the extent that your description sketch indicates 311.
So 311 on the site plan is the correct address. My client can confirm that. 311 North Rome is the address for this box that's within a shopping center.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Vieira, you recognized?
Thank you, sir. I think I heard Mr. Hudson request maybe 10 or 15 minutes until the next hearing to sort of regroup. I mean, I've been in that position before in hearings. And I mean, if I may inquire, Mr. Hudson, did you request that or did I hear you wrong?
If you all have a item after this, I would appreciate
We don't have any
opportunity
more
to
hearings, so
confirm.
we have a resolution after this, Mr. Vieira. So that's all we have. It's gonna take a few seconds. So we don't have any other items. It's the last item of the evening.
We got new business.
We take new
So,
business too,
John,
and then go
We
back.
take new business. I mean, is that what council wants to do? I mean,
Why not?
I'd support that. It's just a courtesy.
I understand.
Thank you, Council.
all right. Okay, all right. So we'll come back to you, Mr. Hudson. We'll go ahead and take up, item, Mr. Shelby, we're going to take up item number 13.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the resolution for item 13.
Second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Singleton's moved it. Mr. Maniscalco seconded it. Roll call.
Dingfelder,
We do a slow roll call. Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Citro, Miranda,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro being absent.
Mr. Shelby, any new business, sir?
None for me, sir.
Mr. Vieira, any new business, sir?
Yes. Just really quick, if I may, Tracia Clossy, that's Tracia Clossy, Collssey, is retiring from her role as the Floorland area neighborhood watch coordinator. I wanted to give her a council commendation off premises. Motion for that, if I may.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Anything else, sir?
That's it, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco?
No.
Mr. Carlson?
Just a quick one. I made a motion this morning that you all passed regarding disclosure of the cost of projects. And Chief of Staff called me and asked me to put a dollar limit on it. He said, I can't figure out the 30-year cost of pencils, so can you please put a limit on it? So I would ask that you all approve a motion to add the limit of, for projects $10 million and over to the motion I made this morning.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you.
Anything else, sir? All right, Mr. Dingfelder?
Yes, sir. At the Planning Commission's request, I have a motion to set some adoption hearings. Specifically, I'd like to make the following motion from the Planning Commission to set an adoption hearing for TA CPA 21-25, TA CPA 21-26, TA CPA 21-28, TA CPA 21-29, and TA CPA 21-30 to be set on March 24th at 5:01 p.m. and direct the legal department to provide the clerk with a form of notice for advertising the public hearings. I'll
Second.
provide this to the clerk.
Second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Anything else, sir?
Two other motions. Mr. Chairman, you actually noted this earlier in the evening, and I've mentioned it in the past. It appears that at some point in recent history, the urban villages, the criteria, distance criteria as related to schools, churches, et cetera, got eliminated as related to urban villages. I think we've had that discussion before. I don't know that there's ever been any rational basis for, why churches and schools should be protected in other parts of town, but not in, let's say, the core part of town, the quote urban villages. So I would like staff to come back to us. I don't know when an appropriate time would be, Mr. Shelby. That was turned into a pretty busy February workshop, didn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
You're recognized.
Excuse me, Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. Mr. Dingfelder, are you referring to distance separation waivers for AB permits?
Correct.
So there is an item on that February 24th, on your February 24th workshop, the growth management workshop, to discuss hours of operation and distance separation for AB sales. So
Oh, great.
I don't know if you want
Great.
to postpone a motion until after that discussion.
Well, I just want to make sure this issue is included in that discussion. So,
And it's the urban
and maybe
villages.
I've already made the motion in the past, and maybe that's what's on the workshop. I can't remember. But,
So it's distance separation not being required for schools and churches within urban villages.
right, schools, churches, whatever we used to require seems to have gotten omitted or deleted as related to urban villages. So
Okay, I
just
can make sure.
not
I
a
can-
comprehensive study, not a comprehensive study, but at least a discussion on the history and rationale.
Okay, I can make sure that's included in that discussion.
All right.
And
So it probably, I don't know, does that require a motion?
I don't believe it would
No,
require a
she's gonna
motion.
add it. She's gonna-
All right, I appreciate that, Susan.
Welcome.
The second item, Mr. Chairman, and we run into this all the time. A petitioner or his or her representative stands in front of us under oath, in good faith, okay, and says, and by the way, my property owner is also gonna do X, Y, and Z, okay? And inevitably, the by the way part is not enforceable. It's just kind of fluff. You know, like I say, I'm sure it's always true. You know, I don't have any doubts about that. But if it's not enforceable, to me, it shouldn't become part of the record. So I'd like staff to come back to us and discuss the possibility of amending the code or amending our rules that would not allow a petitioner or his or her representative to proffer any testimony or evidence of matters that can't be enforced. So in other words, don't promise us a rose garden. Isn't that the name of the book, Marty? I never promised you a rose garden. Anyway, so does everybody understand where I'm coming from?
Sir.
Okay. Any questions for me? All right, so that would be my motion, and I don't know what the best time or place for that would be, Susan, to come back and address that. I think it's probably more of a legal issue than a staff issue. But I'll just say legal and staff come back and report to us on that matter. Maybe during a staff report in the next 60 days.
And Mr. Dingfelder, just to remind you that often what happens is the legal department or I talk about issues that are not enforceable, representations that may be issues that are not enforceable. And so I guess what you're looking for is you'd like to see how that could be codified or consistently applied.
Right.
So that it's on notice that counsel is always aware and the petitioner is always aware that that is really not a relevant consideration for addressing adverse impacts, let's say.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I think especially as related to the petitioner's under oath, petitioner typically understands our rules. We expect them to abide by our rules. And if our rules are somewhere in the code say your presentation may not include something that's not enforceable, then you know, now how we enforce that is another matter. But at least the chairman could call them out of order, you know, if they try to proffer that.
You raise a very interesting point, because one of the challenges with a quasi-judicial hearing is we don't follow the rules of evidence, and sometimes a lot of what the public says, sometimes being, you know, not familiar with what the code says, might not be
Right.
relevant, perhaps.
And our expectation for the general public is less, okay? Because a lot of times the general public are just neighbors who come in, you know, they don't understand or know the code, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we should and could have a higher expectation for the petitioners. And you know, it might be novel, but I think it's appropriate because I know that, again, in good faith, but I know that it's a tactic that is sometimes used. You know, oh, my client's going to do such and such, or we would never use that property for such and such, you know, and it makes it sound better. But at the end of the day, if it's not enforceable and we're trying to make decisions based upon competent, substantial evidence, then why should we allow it in the record? Anyway, I'm not looking for an answer tonight, Susan.
How much time do you think the staff, the legal
60
department?
days adequate to cogitate on that, Ms. Johnson-Velez?
I would think we could at least get a running start and bring something back to you for discussion.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, you have a general meeting, a regular meeting somewhere in that vicinity 2 months from now?
Cogitate.
Cogitate. Did I make that up, Charlie? I don't know.
Big word, man.
February, the month of February, the month of March?
April?
April?
We have April 21st.
What are we at, January?
April.
I think it'd be March.
March.
Yeah, end of January, so give me end of March, please. Yeah, 60 days. Sorry about that.
We're almost at the beginning of February. That would be the
Regular
beginning of
meeting.
April?
We have March 3rd and also March 17th.
That's not, I don't know.
All
if
right,
that's a
first
full
meeting
60
in
day.
April.
April 7th, Madam Clerk?
April 7th, yes.
Okay, April 7th, staff reports. Thank you, everybody. That's my motion.
Anything else, sir?
I'm gonna vote on that.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Nope.
Mr. Brandon?
None.
All right, we'll go back to Mr. Hudson. And item number 10, I believe it is.
Good evening again, gentlemen. I believe Mr. Hussein has something to share.
Mr. Hussein?
Zane Hussein, Development Coordination here. Going in the records, there was a mistype. It is, the unit or parcel is 311 North Rome Avenue. There was a mistype. The whole building is under 301 Rome LLC, but this one unit would be 311 North Rome.
Thank you, Zane. If I could share my screen, I'd like to show some confirmation regarding that address so we can clear up the questions about notice. Thank you. Okay, so the signs, I think as we all know, do not actually list the address. They're placed directly in front of it. This is an affidavit filed on behalf of my law firm, notarized with the address of 311 North Rome. That's the certificate of mailing that it was sent to. That is our signed and sealed wet zone survey. Draw your attention to 311 North Rome. It's our site plan. Draw your attention to 311 North Rome. Address 311 North Rome. So with that, I would like to give a brief presentation.
Just before you proceed, Mr. Chairman.
Recognize?
Okay, I think the final arbiter might be Ms. Johnson-Velez. Not to put you on the spot, Susan, but if are you and Zane comfortable proceeding based upon everything you've seen?
Well, I think Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department, I was just looking for confirmation that the address on the description sketch and the legal description is what's accurate, and I believe Mr. Hudson has just confirmed that.
Everybody's comfortable to proceed?
All right.
Okay.
Applicant's comfortable to proceed.
We apologize for the heartburn we caused you.
That's okay. It's okay. We'll bring this in for a landing, everyone. Okay, so as Zane alluded to, I think we're all familiar with where the site is. This is north of Kennedy. It's in the broader West Tampa urban village. It's sort of the sub area that's sometimes referred to as North Hyde Park. It's in a mix of a pretty significant amount of residential density, sort of a mix of young professionals, college students, across from Willa's Restaurant. And as I'll allude to in a second, it's right next door to another restaurant that serves alcohol. This case is fairly similar to the one that you all just approved, agenda item number 9. The orange arrow pointing down is, as I hope we're all comfortable with, 311 North Rome. That is the retail inline box where this shop is proposed. As you can see on screen, it's right there about the center of this retail strip. To the north, you've got Rome and Fig, a restaurant. And to the south, you've got a health and wellness concept. On the waiver, as you've seen this repeatedly tonight, there's a requirement in the code for a 250-foot separation between businesses serving alcohol, just like the Redneck Wine and some other venues that are in a strip center. We have a 0 separation because we are literally located right next door to the Rome and Fig restaurant. We think this is a needed and desired commercial service in this area that has a lot of people, a couple of restaurants emerging, but really not a ton of retail options. Here's some renderings showing just conceptual renderings for the inside. One thing that I want to note that's really important is that while I think the staff report mentions chapter 14 hours, the proprietors are voluntarily imposing hours from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we can make sure to clean that up between first and second reading, along with some of the other site plan changes that we're completely signed off on. But I want to make that very clear. I know, as somebody who does a fair amount of these, that hours of operation can be a sensitive thing. And my client does not propose full chapter 14 hours, but instead 9 to 10. We're really proud to have the support of both the North Hyde Park Alliance and the North Hyde Park Civic Association, which are the neighborhood groups here, as well as the support of Willows, which is the restaurant that's just across the street at the southwest corner of Rome and Fig. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from Mr. Hudson this evening? All right, being none, we have anybody on the second floor to speak on this item?
Eileen Rosario, Development and Coordination. There's no one here to speak on this item. Thank
Good
you.
night, Miss Eileen.
Good night.
All right. Anyone registered to speak on this item?
No registered speakers for this item.
Mr. Random move to close, second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. I think we leave up Mr. Maniscalco. You close us out for the evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance approving a special use permit S2 for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue, consumption on premises and package sales off premises consumption, and making lawful the sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor on that certain plot or tract of land located at 311, and that's confirmed, North Rome Avenue, Tampa, Florida, as more particularly described in section 2, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call vote?
Miranda.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Citro, and Goode.
Yes.
Motion carried with Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Mr. Dingfelder, you recognize.
Mr. Chairman and to the petitioners, I just wanted, are you guys still there? Yeah.
So we're here.
Yeah, Mr. Hudson, I just wanted to assure your clients, who I do not know, that you've got one of the finest attorneys in town, and I knew he'd figure it out and it would be right. But the reason we ask those questions is if it's not done correctly, then then everybody has to start all over again when somebody figures out the address was wrong. In this case, that wasn't the case, and anyway, I just wanted to explain the process.
Question of the clerk while we have the applicant here.
Mr. Shelby, you recognize.
I'm sorry, I might have missed that. Did it involve the hours of operation as stated by the applicant between first and second reading as part of your motion?
I did not include that, but I will include the hours of operation between first and second reading, just for clarity.
Is that and do we need to retake that vote, Madam Clerk, for that?
Yes, the vote was Citro being absent. Second reading and adoption will be held on February 17th at 9:30 a.m.
Including that amendment?
Including
Yes.
those, yes.
Thank you.
Move to receive.
I have 3 words for you, sir. After this receiver file is done.
Move to receive and file.
Second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjourned.
That's the 3 words. Thank you very
See you
much.
next week, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you.
you doing? What you got?
Oh, Lord, I work for her till I get so. World ain't nothing, oh, nothing. In the world, little girl, I wouldn't do for you. It was shark bite our boat.